Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Attorney General Garland pledges to fight voter ID laws, election integrity measures. Garland appeared in Selma, Alabama, Sunday alongside Vice President to mark the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. Yeah, the Attorney General of the United States is fighting against election integrity measures and voter ID. Think about that for a moment. Think about that. Attorney General Merrick Garland appeared alongside Vice President Kamala Harris in Selma, Alabama. Of course, that's the famous place during the civil rights marches and protests back in the 60s. On Sunday, where he pledged to fight voter ID laws and other election integrity measures that he deemed discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary. Their appearance marked the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday attack on civil rights marchers in Selma, Alabama. 60 years ago. 60 years ago. And who fought? Who was against voter registration? Who was against voter rights in the South and Selma? You guessed it, Democrats. Democrats. Now, they don't want the integrity. It's burdensome and discriminatory. They think there's a video on this on YouTube here. I believe it's Ami Horowitz interviewed some liberal college students in New York, and then he interviewed some black people in Harlem concerning voter IDs. And basically what the college student said, what this guy believes, is black people are just too dumb to get ID. They don't know where to go. They don't know where the DMV is. Now in New York State, you can get a driver's license, but you can get a non-driver's license for ID. In other words, it's an ID, but not a driver's license. And it says in big bold print, non-driver's license. That's fine. It's a great ID. What about if you're not a citizen? Can you get a driver's license in New York? You betcha. You bet. It should say non-citizen on it. Who's going to see it? Besides a cop, if you get pulled over or using it for ID. So it's not discriminatory, like everybody's going to see it and you're a non-citizen. Who are you going to show it to? Just when you have to show ID. It's amazing to me. You have to show ID in some certain areas. I know in New York to buy certain cough medicine off the shelf because of the fact the chemicals are used to make meth, I believe, and other things. You got to show ID to buy cough syrup, but not to vote. Every single state could turn around tomorrow, and I'm sure even the states he considers racist states, and make anybody that wants an ID for voting purposes to get one for free. Free, paid for by the state that you reside in. Period. There's not one state that couldn't afford to do that. Especially the deep, deep blue states like California, Illinois, and New York, and some of the New England states. They spend more money on crap than anybody else. It's amazing to me. Burdensome. Did you need ID to go to the local welfare office? Do you need ID to get SNAP benefits? Do you need ID to get Medicaid? Do you need ID to get Medicare? Do you need ID to sign up for Social Security? Of course. So then you have to ask yourselves not what he's saying as to why. This is the largest number of illegal immigrants that have crossed the border in a 5-year period, my understanding, in the history of the country. These people are all wandering around. Now, they're going to be counted in the next census so Democrats can keep congressional seats, but they want these people to get driver's licenses and they want them to register with no background, not even saying who they are, where they were born, or even if they're citizens of the United States. That's what they want. This isn't about being discriminatory or prejudiced or racist. It's amazing to me. Let's read on. You know, people were so glad when this piece of crap didn't end up on the Supreme Court, but because all the damage he would cause. Well, he might do more permanent damage as Attorney General of the United States. Speaking of the Selma church service to mark the anniversary of the attack by Alabama law officers and civil rights demonstrators, who were all Democrats, Garland recounted the history of voting rights since the end of slavery. A history which he told the crowd has never been steady for black Americans and other voters of color. Up until recent history, including the founding of the country, most people could not vote. Almost all women at the beginning couldn't vote, but the vast majority of men couldn't vote either because you had to own property. And those laws slowly changed over time. And don't let anybody kid you. When the amendment to allow women to vote passed in 1920, and by the way, Tennessee was a state that put it over the top, a southern state that's supposed to be prejudiced, multiple states had women voting. Multiple states. This is almost three generations ago. These people just want to fearmonger. And here's the other insulting thing. They assume all non-white people think the same. That, by definition, is racism. Those measures include practices and procedures that make voting more difficult. Redistricting maps that disadvantage minorities. They did it up here. I live in upstate New York. The Democrats gerrymandered the congressional district so badly that a court had to step in, a judge, and say no. In fact, the new district lines for the New York State Assembly, New York State Senate, and all the U.S. congressional seats came out 2 days ago. It's a lot better than the original one because the Democrats gerrymandered the hell out of them. And a judge said no. They always accuse the people they're against of the same things they're doing themselves. It's amazing to me. More difficult. It's a lie. And changes in voting administration that diminish the authority of locally elected or nonpartisan elected administrators. Yeah, we want the local people to count the votes too. How's that saying go? It's not who votes, it's who gets to count the votes. Garland told worshipers at Selma's Tabernacle Baptist Church the site of the first mass meetings of voter rights movement. Such measures threaten the foundation of our system of government. That's a lie. Garland said the DOJ was fighting back. He pointed to having double the number of lawyers in the voting section of the Civil Rights Division as his legal challenges to state jurisdictions to implement what he deemed discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes. And there you have it. There you have it. Mail-in voting and use of drop boxes and voter ID requirements. Polls consistently show that huge majorities of Americans favor voter ID. But he doesn't give a good damn what the majority wants. This is about this November's election. Make no mistake. Mail-in voting and the use of drop boxes were used very well in 2020. I can't go into detail here because this website won't allow it. Even in Europe, as liberal as they are, especially in Western Europe, they laugh at us. What do you mean no ID? Of course you have to have ID. Everybody in Europe when they vote has ID. I remember not too distant past, I'm 67, used to be able to get the results quickly. In fact, I used to be an election inspector where people come in and vote. And if somebody wasn't on the registered rolls, we would give them an emergency ballot, put an envelope and put it on the side, and check out if they're eligible later. They want same-day registration, mail-in voting, drop boxes everywhere that are unmonitored, no surveillance, nothing. This is what they want because they don't have COVID as they did in 2020. They're pulling out all the stops, including trying to take their main political rival in the Republican Party off the ballot in November for president. This is an all-out assault. This is why we are working. This is him talking. We're working to block the adoption of discriminatory redistricting plans that dilute the vote of black voters and other voters of color. That's assuming that all non-white people think and vote the same. That, by definition, is racist. Later adding the DOJ recognizes the urgency of the moment. Yes, because November 2024 is approaching. And then, of course, listen to this caveat, which is one of the main reasons why they're against it. Garland's remarks come at a time when illegal immigration into the country is at historic highs, all-time highs. We want nobody to have ID. I come in and say I'm Joe Blow, then I vote as Joe Blow. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. I remember when I voted, in fact, my polling place is literally across the street from my house at a church. And I told them my name, the election district I was in. They looked it up. I went to a couple of years ago. I went to show ID. Goes, that's not required. I go, it should be. And I got crap from 3 election inspectors, of course, all Democrats. What do you mean you don't need my ID? How do you know it's me? I had to sign, of course, they gave me the slip of paper out of the book to sign, and they're supposed to compare the signature. But they don't do that. They don't. They just breeze at it and push it through. How many people could have voted under my name before I got there? I don't know. It's ridiculous. Every state has enough money to make voter IDs for everyone that wants one. You can't turn on your utilities in New York State without an ID. You can't sign up for social services benefits. You can't get Medicare, Medicaid. There's certain cough medicines you can't buy without ID, so they can put in a master computer how much cough syrup you're buying, so they don't make sure you're not cooking meth or some other illegal drugs. It's ridiculous. I own a convenience store for 22 years in a very low-income neighborhood, majority minority. I date people all the time for cigarettes and beer. Now, by the way, in New York, it's 21 to buy cigarettes. They can send you to far-off lands to get your face blown off, but you can't buy a pack of cigarettes or have a beer until you're 21. Figure out that one. It's ridiculous. It's a con. It's a scam. It's a lie. People that truly want to vote will get ID. I encourage people to punch in Ami Horowitz voting ID here on YouTube and watch that video. Maybe I'll find it and put the link in the description. That these liberal college students basically belittle non-white people as being too dumb or too ignorant, or not being able to find out how to get an ID, or not know where the DMV is. And then Ami Horowitz goes to Harlem and interviews a lot of black people, and they all go, who would talk like that? Everybody's got ID. Who's saying we're that smart enough we don't know where the DMV is? Of course I know where it is. And they're insulted, as they should be. Even I've seen polls of non-white people, 70, 80 percentile is for voter ID. Why are they so much against it? I think the answer is crystal clear. Crystal clear. They have to win the White House in November, because everything they've done up to this point, the last 6 or 8 years, and maybe even longer, is going to be exposed. President Trump has zero to lose by going after the bad actors and bad guys that are now in government, including him. They'll bust Christians in their home for praying at abortion clinics, or talking at school boards, although arrest reporters who have information concerning J6 and won't divulge their sources. One just turned himself in 2 days ago from Blaze TV. And then the Catherine, I forget her last name, that used to be a reporter for Fox News, now with CBS, is being told she'll be fined $300,000 a year until she gives up her sources. Those of you that think that's ridiculous, that's already been done in the Supreme Court. Look up the history of the Pentagon Papers. Look up that history, where a reporter had sources of the leaked Pentagon Papers concerning the Vietnam War. And eventually the Supreme Court ruled that that reporter has a right to keep the sources confidential. They go after everyone. But God forbid, though, you go after somebody from a BLM riot or Antifa or other organizations that smash windows, burn down buildings, and destroy people's businesses and lives. Can't go after them. Talk about a two-tier justice system. These people are so rotten to the core. They have to win in November. They have to have the House and the Senate and the White House. If they don't, they are screwed, and they know it. They know it. The clock is ticking. This is ridiculous and insulting. Even goes against everything the Constitution in this republic stands for. Of course, they're going to fight it. And they're going to use taxpayer money to go after states to stop them in court. So we have to pay for it too. Oh, joy. Before I keep going on and ranting and raving, because I'll end up saying something I'll regret, and I'll get in trouble here on this website, let's just leave it at that. Tell me what you think. And until next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.